Regulation of arterial pressure. Super important topic. The most important fast mechanism for regulating arterial pressure is the baroreceptor mechanism. It is a neural mechanism. It is fast. And here are the steps in the baroreceptor reflex mechanism. Its function is illustrated here following a hemorrhage. And when you have a hemorrhage and a severe blood loss, there is a decrease in arterial pressure. The reason for the decrease in arterial pressure following a hemorrhage is that when you have a decrease in blood volume, you decrease venous return, you decrease cardiac output by the Frank-Starling mechanism, and when you decrease cardiac output, there is a decrease in arterial pressure. So our starting point is going to be that decrease in arterial pressure. When that happens, there is a decrease in stretch on baroreceptors that are located in the carotid sinus, on the arterial side of the circulation, which makes sense. That's where they're sensing arterial pressure. So there is decreased stretch on those carotid sinus baroreceptors, and consequently, there is a decrease in firing rate of the carotid sinus nerve. So be careful here. There's a decrease in arterial pressure, which causes a decreased firing rate of the carotid sinus nerve. Sometimes students, they know something has to increase, but you want to be careful not to, to get the direction of the firing rate correct. Decreased, decreased. So decreased firing of the carotid sinus nerve, and that sends information up to the cardiovascular regulatory centers that cause two effects. One is a decrease in parasympathetic activity to the heart, whose primary action is going to be to cause an increase in heart rate. Remember, parasympathetic on the SA node slows heart rate, so if you have a decrease in parasympathetic activity to the heart, which means in this case the SA node, there will be an increase in heart rate. The other effect of this baroreceptor reflex is to increase sympathetic activity, and that is going to be to the heart and blood vessels. Multiple effects. Okay? That increase in sympathetic activity is going to have 4 effects on the heart and blood vessels. And I'm actually going to put numbers on the 4 effects so you can follow. The first is an increase in heart rate, a direct effect on the sinus, on the SA node. Those beta-1 receptors on the SA node. The second effect is an increase in contractility, also beta-1. And together, the increase in heart rate and contractility are going to cause an increase in cardiac output, more blood pumped into the arteries. So increased heart rate means more beats per minute. The increase in contractility is going to increase stroke volume, and together they're going to increase cardiac output. The third effect of the increase in sympathetic activity is to constrict arterioles. That's that arteriolar vasoconstriction is via alpha-1 receptors, and that is going to cause an increase in TPR, total peripheral resistance. By constricting the arterioles, you're holding the blood on the arterial side, holding blood volume in the arteries. Okay? And the fourth effect of the increase in sympathetic activity is to constrict the veins, or venoconstriction. The venoconstrictor effect of sympathetic is the one that's sometimes forgotten, but it's very important. There are alpha-1 receptors on the veins, and increased sympathetic is going to constrict via those alpha-1 receptors. Constricting the veins has the effect of decreasing the volume that the veins can hold. When you constrict veins, you're basically decreasing their capacitance, or the volume they can hold. And we sometimes call that the unstressed volume. The volume in the veins is the volume that's not stressed, it's not under pressure. That's where the term unstressed comes. So there is a decrease in unstressed volume, the volume the veins can hold. If the veins can hold less volume, where's that blood volume going to go? It's going to go back to the heart, so there is an increase in venous return. So constricting the veins causes an increase in venous return, and increases in venous return increase preload. So the 4 sympathetic effects all are going to work together to increase arterial pressure. How do they work together? They work together by first increasing heart rate and contractility together to increase cardiac output, to pump more blood into the arteries. They're going to constrict the arterioles to increase TPR. That's going to hold the blood on the arterial side and hold the blood in the arteries. And finally, by increasing venous return or preload, you're going to constrict the veins to increase venous return and preload. You're going to return more blood to the heart so that there can be an increase in cardiac output. Okay, so that is how these 4 effects cooperate, all working together to increase arterial pressure back toward normal. Okay, this is a negative feedback system. It is a corrective system. What do I mean by that? There was a decrease in arterial pressure that occurred following the hemorrhage, for example, or it could be a severe diarrhea. Pick any example where there's a big loss of blood volume. The decrease in arterial pressure triggered the baroreceptor reflex, which is going to try to bring that arterial pressure back toward normal. When the baroreceptor mechanism or reflex is working, be very careful about this. The arterial pressure is brought back toward normal, or ideally could be brought back to normal. It is never going to go above normal. Once arterial pressure has been corrected, you're going to downregulate this baroreceptor reflex because you're not going to need to turn it on anymore. This might seem a little bit silly, but might be a way of visualizing what's going on. I sometimes do this with my students. So if you think of your heart here, and my heart here, and my left arm are my arteries, my right arm is my veins, okay, and my left fist are the arterioles, okay, and I can squeeze them, okay. So what happens when the baroreceptor mechanism is kicking in to increase arterial pressure, to try and increase arterial pressure back toward normal? I'm actually gonna say the 4 effects in a little different order, and hopefully you'll see why. You're going to constrict the veins. In other words, I'm going to squeeze my right arm, and I'm going to by squeezing my right arm, I'm decreasing the volume that the veins can hold. That's going to force blood back to the heart, increasing venous return. That increase in venous return is going to cause an increase in preload, and that by itself would increase cardiac output, which is how much blood is ejected into the arteries. Complementary to that, I'm going to increase heart rate and contractility, which together are also going to increase cardiac output, increasing the volume that's ejected into the arteries. So we've ejected more blood into the arteries. And now, final effect, I'm going to constrict the arterioles, increase TPR, I'm squeezing down on my left fist to hold the blood in the arteries. So the combined effect of all 4 is to increase the volume in the arteries at any moment in time, and volume is what causes pressure. Volume causes pressure, really fundamental idea, and so you're going to increase arterial pressure.